So now that I've created my application, what I'd like to do is actually make this application, this Hello app, do something and display something when I try to visit a particular route, for example. So in order to do that, we're going to be using the views.py folder inside of our Hello app. So this is our application, Hello, and this is the views.py folder, and you can see that by default this folder is telling us to create your views here, and you can think of each view as something that user might want to see using functions and classes. And functions and classes are those of Python because we're writing in Python code. So let's say we would like to write hello world, for example, when we visit this application. So in Python, to begin the function, you need to start with def, that stands for definition, and followed by the name of the function. So generally, if you are just writing Python, we just by default think that we'd like to return, let's say, this HTML syntax h1 and followed by hello world, and then close that. So if you think if you were just writing a Python, you just say I want to return this HTML syntax, and it will return for me hello world inside of my web page. However, this is just a Python function, nothing related to Django. And if you try to run this, we're actually not going to get the response that we want. We won't get a page that says hello world. So this is not related to Django. And to make it related to Django, we are going to add a Django class to it, which is the HTTP response. So we're going to say return for us an HTTP response, which is a special class in Django, and to use it, we generally need to import it. So in order to import it, we're going to say that from Django.http import HTTP response. So now that we've imported our class and we asked to return an HTTP response, however, there's still something missing in our code, and this is the argument. So this function needs to receive something in order to return that HTTP response, and what it's going to receive is a request argument. So as a client, we're going to request from the server to give us that HTTP response, and whenever this function gets that request, it's going to return for us this HTTP response. So as I said, this request argument is going to represent that HTTP request that the user made in order to access our web server. So if you want information about that request, we can look inside of that request object to get access to some other data, and we'll look into that later. And of course, we'll see an example of that throughout the course, but for now, know that you have to add this argument. This request argument is an argument to your function. So now that we've written our function, let's try to first run that code. And remember, to run our code, we're going to type in python manage.py run server. So we need to run our server in order to visualize the application, and we run our server on the whole project. So you don't have to enter hello and type in python manage.py run server. No, your directory is the project itself, and you're going to run the project itself. So if I go ahead and hit enter and copy that URL, and now let's go ahead and paste it. You can see that we don't have this page that we've been waiting for. We don't have this hello world that we've just written in our function. And so why is that? That has to do with the URL routing. And we're going to talk about that in a bit, but just to give you an idea about what URL routing is, we're going to fix this problem. So we've talked about URLs previously, and we've seen that in Python we have one by default, which is the admin, and in order to add this function that we've added, in order to visualize it, we need to add a path to it. And in order to do so, we're going to add a new path aside from the one that is added by Django. And let's say I want it to be empty, so I don't want to add anything. And what I mean by that is that whatever this URL is added, so I don't have any slash after it, we're going to get that function, that result of the function that we're waiting for. And so we have to use the views because the function is inside of views, so we start with the views and dot the name of the function, which is hello, and then let's just give it a name. If we'd like to use it later on to identify it, we're going to give it a name. Let's give it a name of hello. And in order for Python to understand what do we mean by views, we're going to import from our from our application hello, we're going to import views. So we use path, so we imported paths. We used admin, so we imported admin. We use views, so we imported views. So, and one thing, don't get messed up, this hello is the name of the function. So let's change the name for you not to get confused. Let's say greet. Okay, and if we change it to greet, then when we go to URLs, we're going to say views.greet. However, we're going to still import from the hello application. From hello application, we're going to import views, and let's give it just a name of greet to make them synchronized. And of course, the comma is important to specify that we have two paths, the default and one. So this is the general one created for us, and this is the one we've just added. So now if we go ahead and reach for that, if we go ahead and run our servers, python manage.py run server, and one note is that when you run the server, you write it on the application and not on the project. So you can see that here we're inside of the project and not the application. So whenever you want to visualize an application, you run the whole project. So let's go ahead and copy our URL, and now if we go ahead, you can see that we didn't add any route, and that's what we want because the path we wanted was nothing. Actually, we didn't want to add anything to it, and so you can see that we are returned by this HTML page, hello world. If we go ahead and inspect that page, you can see that we have a head, a body, and inside of that body we have hello world. So this is a simple example of how to create your own custom homepage using Django, and in the upcoming lecture we're going to talk actually more about URL routings.